What does the Chicago Treasurer's Office do?
The treasurer is one of 3 elected citywide offices, along with the mayor and city clerk. We're a balance of power. The treasurer's office does not raise your taxes or spend money. We invest the city's money. And we educate small businesses and residents of how they can invest and make money too. Think of us as the city's financial gardener. We make money grow. The Chicago Treasurer's Office. We're a valued resource that's worth a fortune.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Chicago Treasurer's Office, I welcome you to National Small Business Week. Today, our guests will be sharing information on insuring your small business. And the company who will be sharing that information is Hylant. Hylant is one of the largest privately held insurance brokerages in the United States, offering risk management consultation, business insurance, personal insurance, and employee benefits services. They have a team of dedicated experts who specialize in small business, 2 of which will be joining us today. So I want to introduce to you Rebecca, Becky Swisher, and Hosanna Rivers. Ladies, thank you for joining us today for National Small Business Week, and I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Sharice, for that warm welcome. We are super excited to be here today and would like to thank you and the City of Chicago for having us here today. So again, my name is Hosanna Rivers, and I've been in the insurance industry for over 20 years, and I lead our small business department here for our Cleveland office. So we put together a brief presentation on our most frequently asked questions. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. Next slide, please. So I've just been approved for an SBA loan and need insurance. What do I do? So before obtaining an SBA loan, the Small Business Administration requires that you have insurance in place before closing on the loan. So the first thing that you'll want to do is to understand the type of insurance the SBA requires. You'll want to keep in mind the type of insurance you'll need. It can vary depending upon the type of business and the type of loan you choose. So some of the most common policies that the SBA may require could include property insurance, general liability insurance, commercial auto, workers' compensation, and umbrella. So we're going to dive into those coverages a little bit later on. So the next step is, who do you engage with to help you with your insurance needs?
I can help with that question, Hosanna. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Becky Swisher. I've been in the insurance industry for over 25 years, all of which have been with Hylant. I lead a team of 21 professionals focused on small business within our organization. I'm very excited to be with you today and share how to protect one of your largest investments, your business. So, how do you engage in purchasing insurance? There are typically 2 ways that small businesses purchase insurance. One is through a direct writer, the other is through an agent or broker. So what's the difference between the 2? Well, I'm sure you've all heard of companies like State Farm and Allstate. These are examples of direct writers. They use an exclusive agency network to represent and sell their insurance products. The agents work on behalf of and are exclusive to the respective insurance company. They're very knowledgeable about their insurance carriers and product offerings, but are limited to only coverages offered by their respective insurance company. These agencies typically do not represent any other insurance company. The other common approach is working with an independent agent, often referred to as a broker. A broker is an insurance expert that represents the business that is looking for insurance. A broker has contracts with and access to multiple insurance companies. They work with the business owner to identify and understand the risks and exposures associated with the business and its operations. They then market your business information and coverage needs to multiple insurance companies so that they can put together an insurance program that is comprehensive at the most competitive price. Some examples of well-known insurance companies that you may be familiar with that are not direct writers, but require a broker to obtain coverage would be like the Hartford, Travelers, and Liberty Mutual. There are many, many more of these type of insurance companies, but these are the common ones we see on the TV from a day-to-day standpoint. So you're working with an agent. Is it important to work with an agent that specializes in small business? Definitely. It's definitely to your advantage to work with an agent that has experience and specializes in small business. The agents that focus on small business understand the time and financial constraints that new small business owners face. They also know that small business owners have a lot on their plate and wear multiple hats within their operations. Not everyone likes to work with insurance, and it's definitely not their favorite things. So agents try to make the process as painless as possible. But more importantly, agents that specialize in small business can provide valuable resources. As mentioned earlier, they have access to and relationships with multiple insurance companies and their underwriting teams. When they market your account, they are better able to negotiate coverage and premiums with the help of those relationships and the premium volume with those carriers. This ensures that you are getting a comprehensive program at the best premium. They're truly working for you. But in my opinion, the most valuable resource provided by the agent that specializes in small business is claims advocacy. That's the reason you're purchasing insurance, for claims to be paid. In the event of a claim, small business agents work with the insurance company's claim adjusters on behalf of the business owner to ensure that the claims process is moving forward. They also review the claim detail along with the policy to ensure that the insurance company is determining the claim, the coverage, and the limits properly. They are your advocate. Also, they provide risk management support. Agents can assist with contract reviews as it relates to the insurance requirements and risk transfer language and provide input on the applicability of those requirements as it pertains to your business operations. Oftentimes, we see business owners receive standard industry contracts from the contract owners with no regard to their operation or size. Agents can help identify those requirements and provide guidance on negotiating those requirements with the contract owner. They also have firsthand experience and knowledge on the insurance and claim trends affecting small businesses and provide up-to-date communications on the market challenges and trends so that business owners can address accordingly and mitigate their risks. So, what type of insurance do I really need? What is really required? We've seen business owners begin their insurance journey for various reasons. As Hazana mentioned previously, securing a loan. SBA, you need certain requirements. We've also received requests for certificates of insurance showing specific coverages and limits so that an employee or a person can get on a job site or perform a project. This is very common with contractors to start a job. Also, if a business is leasing space, the business owner will request copies of the insurance showing proof of coverage for various coverage requirements to satisfy the lease agreement. And then lastly, but definitely not least, are, as we mentioned, satisfying contract requirements. We see this very often with franchise type organizations. But outside of satisfying a contract, what insurance really is required by law? Well, for those businesses that have employees, workers' compensation is required by law. And for those businesses that have owned autos, they need to carry insurance as required per the state laws. But other than that, every business is different, which means that the business insurance needs could vary depending on various factors. But there are standard insurance coverages that all businesses should have to protect just the general risk of operating their business and provide them a peace of mind. I like to call it sleep insurance. So I'm going to turn it over to Hazana just so that she can review those standard coverages that are typical with small businesses.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becky. So when it comes to small business owners, these are the most common types of coverages needed for your business. Workers' compensation. So I think Becky mentioned this insurance is mandatory, even if you have one employee. So you absolutely need this coverage. So it helps you to provide benefits to your employees if they have a work-related injury or illness. So it's going to help you pay for medical treatment, lost wages, disability benefits, or funeral expenses. So when it comes to general liability insurance, so your general liability helps you to cover claims for bodily injury and property damage for which you become legally obligated to pay. So for example, if a customer walks into a store, slips, trips, or fall, this coverage is going to help pay for medical costs. In terms of property coverage, so this is going to cover you for damage to buildings, contents, equipment, inventory, and this is due to a covered cause of loss. One example could be a fire. And also this can include your loans from an SBA that's greater than $25,000. That requires some type of collateral. And if that's the case, the SBA will likely require for you to have personal property insurance in place to cover that collateral. So moving on to commercial automobile. So this applies to autos owned by or used by your business. So this coverage is going to protect your business against liability for damages caused by accidents involving your business. It's also going to include hired and non-owned auto coverage. And so this coverage we typically see on small business owners policy, and this is a very important coverage. So the non-owned portion is going to cover you in the event an employee is driving on company business. So yes, the employee's insurance is going to be primary. However, unfortunately, attorneys see big dollars and will likely name the company in the lawsuit. So then you have hired autos. So if you rent an automobile in the business name, let's say you go to Hertz or Avis or Enterprise and you have an automobile accident, it's going to provide coverage to the third party. So again, it's going to provide coverage to the automobile that you hit. It does not cover the vehicle that you did damage to. It's not going to cover the vehicle that you rented. So you're going to want to make sure that your policy includes physical damage. So make sure you're speaking with your agent, having that conversation, making sure that physical damage coverage is included. If you do not have physical damage, make sure that you purchase that at the time that you're renting the vehicle. Moving on to umbrella coverage. So you want to think of umbrella just like an umbrella that covers you. So it provides an extra layer of liability protection. It typically goes over general liability, it goes over commercial auto, and employer's liability. It does not go over property coverage. So for example, if your company is found liable for a customer's injury at your place of business, let's say you're sued for $1.5 million, but you have $1 million in general liability coverage. So then the umbrella would drop down and pay the remainder of the claim. So again, these are the most common types of coverages you'll find for many of the small business owners. So I'm going to turn it back over to Becky to discuss some of the unique coverages based upon specific industries. Becky?
Thank you. So we commonly see 3 requests of coverages. Are you a bar owner, a restaurant, a convenience store? An additional coverage you need, in addition to the standard coverage that Hazana mentioned, is liquor liability. Liquor liability protects those businesses that are in the business of selling or serving alcohol. An example would be if your business sells or serves alcohol to a visibly intoxicated individual and that person causes injury or property damage. Liquor liability insurance will pay for the claim and the legal defense costs in this situation. Another common coverage/request is for professional services. Professional services like an accountant, business consultant, real estate agent, or tax preparer. Professional liability pays for claims and defense costs resulting from mistakes that you or your employees make within the business and their professional services. These type of mistakes include misrepresentation, violation of good faith and fair dealing, negligence in giving false or inaccurate advice. But the common request, or I should say that one of the most common requests that we receive, is directors and officers liability. We often see this specifically for non-for-profits. Did you know that if you sit on a board that doesn't have directors and officers liability, that you can be held personally responsible for your decisions as a board of director? Well, directors and officers liability protects individuals from personal losses if they are sued for the decisions as a result of serving on a board as a director or an officer. For example, directors and officers can be sued by employees, vendors, investors, or customers for alleged wrongdoing in managing their company. Directors and officers liability would pay for legal defense costs and claim expenses in these situations. There are a couple of hot coverages that we are getting a lot of questions on as of late, and I'm going to turn those over to Hazana so she can address those.
Thank you, Becky. So again, these 2 coverages that I'm going to go over, they're very hot coverages in the marketplace because we're seeing a lot of claims coming from these 2 areas. So with the first question, do small businesses get targeted by cyber attacks? And the answer is yes. So on average, 47% of cyber attacks target small businesses. I mean, we hear in the media about the large companies. So a lot of my clients, and again, I've worked in the small business space over 20 years. So a lot of my clients don't feel they have an exposure because they're hearing about the larger companies in the media. But at any rate, this is because many of the small businesses typically have less sophisticated security measures in place than larger corporations, which makes them an easier target. So out of the companies that are impacted, nearly 60% of the companies go out of business within 6 months. So here's a few things employers can do to prevent cyber attacks. Train your employees with basic security practices. Protect your information and networks by having the latest security software. Use firewall security. Create a mobile device action plan. Secure your Wi-Fi network. And of course, use strong password settings. Next slide, please. I trust my employees. Is it necessary to have employment practice liability? Absolutely. So first, what is employment practice liability? So employment practice liability, it's when an employee were to sue you for wrongful termination, sexual harassment, discrimination, breach of employment, just to name a few. So it's going to cover your legal defense costs when an employee or group of employees claim their civil rights were violated. So some of the best preventative measures is to educate your employees and managers, create effective hiring and screening practice, post corporate policies throughout the workplace, create a standard policy handbook, show employees what steps to take if they are an object of sexual harassment or discrimination by someone in the workplace, including if it's a supervisor. And finally, you'll want to document, document, document. I think this one is probably the number one question I get. I may get this question every day. Why are my premiums so high? What affects the cost of coverage? So there's a number of reasons why we're seeing increases in the marketplace. Our clients are growing, they're scaling. So as they begin to grow, we're seeing, the premiums, they're quite naturally going to increase. Claims experience, the more claims you have, you're going to see those premiums increase as well. However, right now we're in crazy times, and it's just not normal times right now. So we are in right now what's considered to be a hard market. And I think all of us is feeling the hard market right now, right? So what does a hard market mean? So it means in the insurance world, a hard market it's an upswing in the market cycle, and premiums increase and capacity for the most insurance increases. So as respects to auto, the reasons why we're seeing increases is due to distracted drivers. I mean, many folks they're on their phone, they're texting, so they're absolutely distracted. They're speeding. So, for example, I read, where in 2022, the state of New Hampshire police pulled over 147 drivers within the 5-hour time frame that were traveling more than 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. That's a lot. Another reason, advancement in vehicle technologies, making repairs more expensive. And then we're all feeling this as well, labor shortages and supply chains, which is causing repair costs to increase as well. From a liability perspective, we're seeing increases go up because lawsuits are becoming more and more expensive, and we're all feeling the heat of that. That's making our insurance go up even more. When it comes to property, everyone has seen their property values go up. So as property values go up, the downside to that means higher premiums. So considering building values should be insured at replacement costs, the rate values increase as well. And then also similar to auto rates, building rates are also increasing. It's also increasing due to labor shortages as well as cost of materials. Cyber liability, ransom attacks have been on a rise. So this is when a hacker holds your computer system hostage. Ransom attacks are very expensive, and it's still evolving today. So going back to COVID, many organizations were forced to adopt a work from home setup, which created a greater opportunity for the cyber hackers. So one thing about Hylant, we created a dedicated cyber team who specializes in cybersecurity. They work on no line of coverage other than cybersecurity. So they are our in-house experts. Now, I know enough about cybersecurity to be dangerous. However, I can tell you I lean on that department quite often. So we talked about ways, the reasons why we're seeing premium increasing. So let's talk about a few things that you can do to save on your insurance. I would say look at your policy. Have a conversation with your agent. Are there vehicles on your policy that you no longer need? Are there buildings on your policy that you no longer need that should be removed? Just sit down with your agent, make sure you're reviewing those policies every year, because you tend to find that those policies are just renewing every year. And our clients are so busy, they're not really taking the time to look at the policies. I know it may sound absurd, but we do see this quite often. And also increase deductibles. The lower the deductible, the higher the premium. So a good way to lower your premium is to raise the deductible. But whatever the case is, please be sure to choose the deductible that makes sense for you. And also work with an agent that has access to multiple markets. For example, Hylant, we have access to over 200 plus markets. We learned earlier, Becky talked about the difference between a direct writer and an agent broker. So if you're working with an agent broker, we recommend that you speak with your agent and have them to market your account at least every 3 years. I mean, the market is constantly changing. The appetite for carriers are changing. So you want to make sure that you're with the most competitive program. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Becky to kind of go over our final question.
Final question. And everyone's main focus is growth. How do I ensure my business as it grows? The answer to this is communication. Communication. Talk to your agent. Agents and insurance companies recognize and expect businesses to evolve and grow. It's very important to keep your agent informed on any changes in growth as it relates to a number of items, including increased sales and revenue, increased employee count, added payroll, additional locations, and most definitely operational changes. Growth in these areas with an agent will help you to establish the adequate limits of insurance and address any additional coverage needs as your operational exposures and risk changes and increases. We as agents want to be an extension and a partner to you and your operations. Our focus is to support your business growth and help protect your largest investment, your business. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Hazana and I work in small business insurance day in and day out, and we're excited that you had us share our knowledge with you and hope that we've provided some helpful information. We have some time left over for some questions and answers. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we'd love to address those. And please know that we have our contact information on the screen. So if at any time, if you want to jot that information down and anytime you have any questions, please reach out to myself or Hazana. We'd love to be able to help you and answer any questions you may have. Let's see. Let me get my glasses on. If I am a freelance writer or graphic designer, do I need business insurance? Absolutely. If you think about your exposures, the freelance writer as well as a graphic designer, that's a professional service. So you definitely want to consider the professional liability. If you have an office space that you're leasing, you would definitely need general liability and property insurance. General liability to protect people coming onto your site for meetings and things of that nature in the event they are injured on your premises as a result of your negligence, and the property insurance for any type of equipment, desks, or things of that nature. If you're working from home, you still do want to consider general liability. You may be meeting with clients somewhere else, or you may have clients come to your space. But at any rate, if a client is injured as a result of, as they perceive negligence on your behalf at your premises or any lease premises, that's where general liability would come into play. Hazana, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I just want to mention that, we have many clients that, I have new clients that come to me and they think just because they have a home-based business that they do not need general liability insurance. But just to echo what you said, you absolutely still need general liability insurance because it is a third-party coverage as well. It's going to provide coverage in other places as well. So let's say, I mean, this is rare that it could happen. So let's say you're at Panera Bread, you're meeting a client at Panera and your computer, you have your laptop and your computer is running low. So you have a cord and let's say someone trips over that cord I mean, even though you're on Panera Bread property, you're still you could still be held liable. That's just one example. Or you're having some business personal property delivered to your premises and it's business related. Your homeowner's policy is not going to pay for that. So you still would need general liability for your home as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
We have another question from Marietta. What size of a business is considered a small business? Great question.
Yeah.
So interestingly, a small business can be very large. By definition, small business can be a firm that has a revenue ranging from 1 million to 40 million and an employee count from 100 to 100 to 1,500 employees. But small business within the insurance industry is dependent upon the carrier's definition of small business and the agency's definition of small business. So I can say from our standpoint, we look at it from a revenue standpoint. So it's revenue / premium. So our small business would be considered a premium, a total account premium of probably under $75,000. But our carriers, they consider small business based on revenue, and that varies from carrier to carrier.
So we could have a pretty sizable account in our book of business. I mean, Becky, $200,000 account, $300,000 account in our book of business,
which would still be considered small commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that question. We've got another one from Kimberly. What type of insurance would be appropriate for a house cleaner maid? Good question.
So I guess, so we would write a janitorial, classify it as a janitorial. So we would write liability for sure. We would write your property insurance for your contents. I guess I would need to know just a little bit more because this is kind of unique with the maid.
One of the requests that I've seen made of this type of operation is third-party crime coverage. Not that your service is going to do that, but there are contracts that are requiring third-party crime coverage in the event the cleaning service team would steal, there would be a theft at one of the client's homes or businesses.
So property general liability and crime coverage would be the main coverages.
And obviously, if you work compensation, if you have employees. I guess another one, just continuing on that path, is if you have employees, another consideration would be employment practices liability that Hazana touched on earlier. Employment practices liability covers the business in the event of a claim made by an employee for like wrongful termination, sexual harassment, discrimination, things of that nature.
And also employment practice liability. I mean, coverage, insurance can be so complex, but employment practice liability, as we talked about, when an employee sue you for wrongful termination, sexual harassment, discrimination, but that coverage also can extend to third party as well. So that could be if an employee were to, discrimination to someone else. So there's also third party coverage.
Thank you.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It doesn't look like we have any additional questions. I would also like to invite our audience to come back tomorrow, where we will have Kimberly Brisky from Summer Corps to talk about financing options for your small business. Again, we want to thank Hosanna Rivers and Becky Swisher for sharing this valuable information today on how to insure your small business. Their contact information is here on the screen. We'll leave it up for a few more seconds so you all can copy it or screenshot it. And please feel free to reach out to them. And ladies, thank you all so much. I see a comment in the chat that says that the information that you provided today was very helpful. And I agree. So thank you all again
Wonderful.
for joining us. We appreciate it and look forward to working with you again sometime this year.
Thank you
Sounds
very
good.
much.
Thank you again for having us.
All right. Have a
Take
great
care.
you too.
Bye bye.